The snow was falling in thick, lazy flakes outside my parents' house, blanketing the driveway I had shoveled that morning. Inside, the air smelled of roast ham and cinnamon, the kind of warmth that should have felt like home. I had just finished setting up the Christmas Eve dinner, every detail paid for out of my own pocket. The table was groaning under the weight of it all. A glazed ham I had ordered from the butcher, mashed potatoes I'd whipped up from scratch, green beans sautéed with almonds, even a stack of rented folding chairs because their rickety old ones wouldn't hold the cousins. I was still wiping my hands on a towel, sweat beading on my forehead, when my dad, Henry, sauntered over with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Scarlett, got something for you," he said, holding out a sleek red gift box tied with a gold ribbon. It was the kind of wrapping that screamed effort. Too much effort for this family. My sister Chloe, perched on the arm of the couch, smirked like she was in on a secret. Mom hovered near the kitchen doorway, sipping eggnog and staring at the floor. I should have known right then something was off, but I was too busy trying to shake the sting of being the only one who'd set the table, cleared the plates, or even plugged in the damn twinkle lights. "You didn't have to get me anything," I said, forcing a smile as I took the box. It was heavier than I expected, solid in my hands. "Oh, but we did," Dad replied, his voice syrupy sweet, the way it got when he was about to lecture me. "Go on, open it." I glanced around. Chloe's smirk widened. Mom adjusted her sweater, still not meeting my eyes. My cousins were chattering in the corner, oblivious, but the room felt like it was holding its breath. I tugged the ribbon loose, peeled back the lid, and froze. Inside was a laminated booklet, the cover staring up at me in bold black letters. How to be a better daughter. Scarlett's Holiday Rules. It looked professional, like something you'd pick up at a seminar, complete with a little clip art snowflake in the corner. "What is this?" I asked, my voice catching somewhere between a laugh and a choke. "It's not a joke," Dad said, crossing his arms like he was unveiling a masterpiece. "It's constructive. We all pitched in, thought it'd be helpful." "Helpful for what?" I flipped it open, my fingers trembling just enough to notice. The pages were divided into sections, typed out in crisp, accusing font. Section 1. Attitude adjustments. No bragging about money, even if you paid for dinner. Don't criticize the meal, even if it's not up to your standards. Arrive cheerful, not moody. Holidays aren't about your feelings. Section 2. Family etiquette. No snarky comments about late guests. Don't act like you're above store-bought desserts. Smile more. It's Christmas. I looked up, my chest tightening. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," Chloe chimed in, leaning back with her arms crossed. "It's to make next year a little less, you. "Me?" I echoed, flipping to another page. Contribution guidelines. If you insist on funding the meal, do it quietly. No one needs a tally of your generosity. Don't sulk if no one helps. It's not their job. I let out a sharp laugh, the kind that cuts through silence like glass. "So you printed me a manual on how to exist at your table?" "It's not an attack," Dad said, folding his hands like he was some wise elder. "It's a gift. We just want you to fit in better. You've got to admit, Scarlett, holidays get tense when you're around." "Tense?" I repeated, louder than I meant to. "I paid for all of this. The ham, the chairs, the freaking napkins, I did it all." "We know," Mom finally piped up, her voice quick and defensive. "And you made sure everyone knew it." "See?" Chloe grinned, pointing at me like I'd just proved their point. "That attitude, that's what we mean." I stared at them, the booklet heavy in my hands. A gift. They'd gift-wrapped a list of ways I disappointed them and called it thoughtful. I remembered last Christmas, when Dad's car broke down and I Venmo'd him $1,200 to fix it. He'd hugged me then, said I was a lifesaver. Now I was the problem they needed to fix. My throat burned, but I swallowed it down. "I need some air," I said quietly, setting the box on the table. No one stopped me as I grabbed my coat and stepped outside, the cold biting my face. But before I left, I slid an envelope I'd brought, just in case, under the tree. They didn't notice. They wouldn't. Not yet. The snow crunched under my boots as I stood there, the gift replaying in my head. This wasn't the first time they'd tried to reshape me. It was just the first time they'd put it on paper. The snow was still clinging to my boots as I stood outside, the red glow of the gift box burning in my mind. I couldn't go back in there, not yet, so I leaned against the porch railing and let the cold seep into my hands. That booklet wasn't just a slap in the face, it was a spotlight on every jagged edge of the life I'd built with them. I'd been their fixer for years, the one who swooped in with cash and solutions, while they smiled and patted my head like I was some loyal dog. And now they'd handed me rules like I was the one who needed fixing. It started small, the way these things do. 6 years ago, Chloe called me in tears because her car wouldn't start, and she had a job interview the next day. I sent her $2,000 without blinking. Didn't even ask her to pay me back. She got the job, sent me a quick "thanks, sis" text, and that was it. Then there was Dad, 3 winters back, when he forgot to tell us he'd blown half his savings at the casino. The bills piled up, and the heat got shut off. I wired him $15,000 over 2 months, piece by piece, so they wouldn't lose the house. He promised he'd pay me back when things turned around. I'm still waiting. Mom was sneakier. 2 years ago, she called me sobbing about an emergency. Turns out it was an $800 spa weekend she'd booked and couldn't cover. "I just needed a break, Scarlett," she said, like I was her personal ATM. I paid it, of course. I always did, but the thanks never came. Instead, I got snide little digs over the years. "You're so lucky to be single with cash," Chloe would say, sipping wine I'd bought. "No kids, no worries, right?" Lucky. Yeah, let me tell you about lucky. Eating ramen in a drafty apartment because I'd just sent Dad another $500 for groceries he probably spent on poker. I kept doing it, though. Every time they needed something, I was there. When Chloe's dog got sick last summer, I covered the $2,200 vet bill. When Mom's phone broke, I bought her a new one. $600 gone. I even paid for Dad's fishing trip with his buddies last spring, $900, because he deserved a break. They'd hug me, call me a lifesaver, and then forget it ever happened. But they never forgot when I showed up to Easter without a dessert once. 3 years running, Chloe brought it up like it was a federal crime. "Scarlett's too busy to bake," she'd say, smirking. Busy? I was busy bailing them out. The worst part wasn't the money. It was what I found 3 years ago when I was helping Chloe move into her new place. She'd left her old phone on the counter, and I was scrolling through it, looking for a photo of us to send her. Instead, I found a text thread between Dad and Mom, buried in the archives. "Scarlett's good for cash," Dad had written, "but she's a drag at family stuff, always so serious." Mom's reply, "She'll keep helping, though. She's too soft to say no." Kyo. I stood there, the phone shaking in my hands, my ears ringing like I'd been slapped. I was 32, had just sent Mom $1,000 for a roof leak that mysteriously never got fixed, and there it was in black and white. I was their wallet, not their daughter. I didn't confront them. What would I even say? "Hey, I saw you think I'm a drag. Mind giving me my money back?" No, I kept my mouth shut and started a Google Doc that night. Every expense, every Venmo, every favor I did for them, I wrote it down. Date, amount, reason. By this Christmas, the total hit $62,481.19. $62,000 and change poured into their lives while I patched the holes in mine. I'd spent years bending over backwards, thinking if I stopped, they'd stop pretending to care. And then they handed me that booklet, wrapped in a bow, like I was the one who needed to change. I kicked at the snow on the porch, my breath fogging in the air. They didn't just want me to fit in, they wanted me to keep funding their world while smiling through their jabs. I'd paid for the ham steaming on the table, the chairs they were sitting in, the lights twinkling over their heads, and they'd thanked me with a list of rules. My hands curled into fists, the envelope I'd slipped under the tree flashing in my mind. They didn't know what was coming, not yet. But standing there, with the cold biting my skin and their voices drifting through the window, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't their fixer anymore. The week after Christmas felt like a slow unraveling. I'd left their house with the taste of that booklet still bitter on my tongue, the envelope I'd slid under the tree ticking like a hidden clock. My phone stayed quiet for a couple of days, but I knew it wouldn't last. Sure enough, on the 28th, Dad's name lit up my screen with a text. "Hey, Scarlett, can you order the New Year's catering? We loved your taste last time." No mention of the gift, no apology, just another hand reaching into my pocket. Then Chloe piled on. "We should talk about the misunderstanding at dinner. You took it way too personally." I stared at the messages, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, then locked the screen. I wasn't playing their game anymore. 2 days later, the group chat flared up again. "Mom, Scarlett, honey, we're worried you're upset. Call me?" Dad, "Don't make this a thing. It was just feedback." Aunt and Chloe, "Seriously, you ruined the vibe over a joke." A joke. They'd laminated their resentment and called it humor. I ignored them all, letting the silence stretch. But it didn't feel like peace. It felt like the calm before a storm I'd already set in motion. Then, out of nowhere, my brother-in-law, Lucas, called. Chloe's husband. We weren't close. He was the quiet type, always stuck to her side like a shadow. But his name on my caller ID made my stomach twist. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Scarlett," he said, his voice low, like he was hiding from someone. "I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I can't keep quiet anymore." "What's going on?" I asked, leaning against my kitchen counter, the hum of the fridge filling the silence. He hesitated. "That booklet, they didn't just give it to you. They made copies, plural." "Copies?" My voice sharpened, cutting through the air. "What do you mean, copies?" "They showed it off at Mom's birthday dinner last week, the one you didn't come to. Chloe was reading it out loud, like it was some big roast. Everyone was laughing. Your aunt got a copy too. Your dad said it was a model for dealing with you." My stomach twisted, a cold wave crashing over me. "They roasted me? Behind my back?" "Yeah," Lucas said, quieter now. "I thought it was just a dumb gag at first, but it got worse. Your dad pulled me aside after, asked if I thought they could legally cut you out of the car title, the SUV you bought them." I gripped the counter, my knuckles whitening. "The car? They're trying to screw me over the car?" "I think so," he said. "Chloe's in on it too. They're pissed you've been distant lately, like it's your fault they're scrambling." I couldn't breathe for a second. That SUV, a sleek black thing I'd bought 2 years ago when their old junker died. I'd covered every payment, every oil change, because they begged me to. "It's a family car," Dad had said, grinning as he took the keys. "You're the best, Scarlett." Best until I stopped bowing to their every whim. What they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to check, was that after they missed 6 payments in a row, I'd refinanced it under my name alone. They'd signed the papers, too lazy to read the fine print, trusting me to keep their world spinning. "They've got no idea, do they?" I said, almost to myself. "What?" Lucas asked. "The title. It's mine, fully mine. They don't own a damn thing." He let out a low whistle. "No, they don't. They think it's still joint, like you're just the bankroll. But Scarlett, they're desperate. I heard your dad talking about fixing this, whatever that means." "Fixing me out of my own car," I muttered, a laugh escaping me, sharp and hollow. "Thanks for the heads up, Lucas." "Why tell me, though?" He paused, the line crackling. "Because I'm done with their crap, too. I didn't sign up for this level of unhinged. Just watch your back, okay?" "Yeah," I said, my mind already racing. "I will." I hung up, staring at the dark screen. Copies, a roast, a plot to erase me from what I'd built for them. It wasn't just the booklet anymore. It was war, and they had no clue I'd already fired the first shot. That envelope under the tree wasn't just a receipt. It was a repossession notice, signed and sealed. They'd find out soon enough. I turned off the kitchen light, the shadows swallowing me, and for the first time in days, I felt something like fire in my chest. They'd started this. I was going to finish it. New Year's Eve. At my parents' house felt like stepping into a trap I had already rigged to spring. They'd invited me over like nothing had happened, like the booklet, the copies, and Lucas's warning were all figments of my imagination. I almost didn't go, but I had a plan, and the weight of the envelope in my coat pocket pulled me through the front door. The place smelled like burnt garlic and cheap champagne, a far cry from the Christmas spread I'd funded. Mom was fussing over a tray of store-bought appetizers, ironic given their rule against them, and Dad was pouring whiskey into a chipped glass. Chloe lounged on the couch, scrolling her phone, her nails clicking against the screen. "Look who decided to grace us," Chloe said, not glancing up. Her tone was light, but it dripped with venom. "Come in, honey," Mom called from the kitchen. "I made lasagna, your favorite." I stepped inside slowly, the familiar creak of the floorboards under my boots. Same house, same smells, same fake warmth, hiding real tension. "Wine?" Dad asked, already tipping the bottle toward a glass. "I'm good," I said, brushing past him. Chloe elbowed me as I walked by, smirking. "Still mad about the guide?" "No," I said, my voice flat. "It was hilarious." Mom poked her head out, wiping her hands on a towel. "See, she can take a joke. Right, Scarlett?" "Right," I said, meeting her eyes for a split second before looking away. They were all pretending. The booklet never happened. I hadn't gone silent for days. The world hadn't shifted under their feet. But it had, and I could feel the clock ticking as I slid my coat off and sat at the table. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. Chloe rambled about her New Year's plans, a trip to some overpriced resort she couldn't afford. Dad grunted about work. Mom pushed the lasagna around her plate, sneaking glances at me. I didn't touch my food, just sat there, waiting. Then Dad broke the silence. "Scarlett, we need to talk about the car." I looked up, my fork still in my hand. "The car?" "Yeah," Chloe jumped in, leaning forward. "You sent some kind of letter. Legal stuff. What's that about?" "You didn't read it?" I asked, tilting my head. "It looked like junk," Dad muttered, swirling his whiskey. "We get crap like that all the time." "It wasn't junk," I said. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the envelope, and dropped it on the table with a soft thud. "That was a formality. This is the real deal." Mom frowned, her hand hovering over the lasagna. "What is it?" "Final notice," I said, my voice steady. "Repossession. The SUV's going back to the bank unless the debt's cleared. You're $38,000 behind." "Behind on what?" Mom snapped, her fork clattering to her plate. "Payments," I said. "Car loan, insurance, maintenance, all of it. I've been covering it for years. You said you'd reimburse me. You didn't." Chloe barked a laugh. "You're joking. I said I'd help, not that I'd—" "Help turned into me owning it," I cut her off. "I've got the title, my name, my asset, and now I'm reclaiming it." "You're bluffing," Dad said, his glass hitting the table hard enough to slosh whiskey over the rim. I pulled out my phone, opened the PDF, and slid it across to him. Title: Scarlett Hayes, sole owner. Filed June 22nd, 2021. "You signed it. You didn't read it." Mom snatched the phone, her eyes darting over the screen. No, that's not what we agreed." "It's what you signed," I said, leaning back in my chair. Chloe's chair scraped the floor as she shot up. "You're insane. You're ruining us over a car?" "No," I said, standing too. "I'm done being your backup wallet, done being your punching bag, done being the one you mock with your little rule books." "We're your family," Mom yelled, her voice cracking. "Family?" I shot back. "Like when you roasted me at your birthday dinner? Made copies of that guide to fix me?" Dad's face went red. "You're exaggerating." "No," I said, my voice rising. "I'm seeing it clearly now." Mom took a shaky step toward me. "If you do this, Scarlett, I'll never forgive you." I looked her dead in the eye. "You forgave Chloe for crashing my savings account. Twice." "That's different," she hissed. "No," I said. "It's always been the same. Her, the princess, me, the ATM." "You think money makes you better?" Dad growled, slamming his hand on the table. "You think we need you?" "You did," I said, shrugging. "That's over now." "You can't repossess our car," Mom shrieked. "We're your parents." "I'm not," I said. "The bank will." Silence dropped like a stone. Then Chloe lunged, grabbed the envelope, and tore it in half, throwing the pieces at me. "You've changed." "Oh." "Don't finish that," I said, pulling my phone out again. "I've recorded this whole conversation, legally, for my protection." Her face froze. "You're threatening us?" "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself, like I should have done years ago." "You'll regret this!" Mom screamed, tears streaking her mascara. I regret staying this long, I said, grabbing my coat. I turned to the door, then paused. Oh, almost forgot. I pulled a second envelope from my pocket and tossed it on the floor. Chloe scooped it up, her hands shaking. What now? She snarled. Your phone plan, I said. I stopped paying it. Service cuts off tomorrow. You wouldn't, Dad said, stepping forward. I already did, I said, and walked out. The door slammed behind me, their shouts fading into the night. The snow swallowed my footsteps as I headed to my car, the weight lifting off my chest with every crunch. They'd opened the first wound. I had just delivered the last cut. The days after New Year's Eve blurred into a storm of noise. My phone lit up like a fireworks show. 20 calls in the first 48 hours. Mom's voice, shrill and pleading, filled my voicemail. Scarlett, we can fix this. Just call me. Dad's came next, gruff and accusing. You're making a fool of yourself. Stop this now. Chloe's was a venomous hiss. You've broken everything. Lucas is a mess. I'm losing the car. You happy? I didn't answer. I let the messages pile up, a digital graveyard of their panic, and turned my ringer off. The SUV was gone by January 2nd, repossessed right from their driveway according to the bank's email. I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. Then came the knock. It was a Tuesday afternoon, gray and damp outside my apartment. I opened the door to a man in a blazer, clipboard in hand. Scarlett Hayes? He asked, adjusting his glasses. Yeah, I said, crossing my arms. I'm Mark Dawson, legal rep for the Hayes family. He said it like it was a title I should bow to. I laughed, sharp and sudden, and his eyebrows shot up. My own family lawyered up? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. They'd like to negotiate, he said, flipping open his clipboard. Privately, no court filings yet. They're claiming undue influence, say the car title transfer was manipulative. I snorted. Manipulative? They begged me to take it over. I've got the texts. Scarlett, we're drowning. Please help. I've got bank records, too. Years of payments. He shifted, uncomfortable. Still, they're willing to settle quietly. They want the repossession reversed and, continued financial support. Modest, they say. Modest, I repeated, staring at him. Tell them they can keep their modesty. They can pay the bank or lose more. I'm done. He opened his mouth, then closed it, nodded, and left. I shut the door, the click echoing in my quiet living room. They weren't just desperate. They were delusional. But I had seen that coming. What I didn't expect was the call that night. It was Lucas. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over decline, but picked up anyway. Scarlett, he said, his voice low and ragged. I'm leaving Chloe. I sat up on my couch, the TV flickering silently in the background. What? I can't do it anymore, he said. The screaming, the money fights, her running to your parents every 5 minutes. You were right. They're toxic. I filed for separation yesterday. I didn't know what to say. Lucas, There's more, he cut in. Chloe's losing it. She said if you don't reverse the repossession, she'll leak your salary online. Expose you, whatever that means. I blinked, then laughed. What, like I'm some celebrity? Let her try. She's unraveling, he said. Your dad's pushing her hard, drinking again, not sleeping. Just heads up. Not my problem, I said, my voice cold. But why tell me? He paused. Because I'm done being their pawn. You should know what's coming. Thanks, I said, and meant it. He hung up, and I sat there, the weight of his words sinking in. They were falling apart, and I wasn't the glue anymore. But the real shock came the next day. My phone rang again, an unknown number. I answered, expecting another lawyer. Instead, a gravelly voice crackled through. Scarlett, it's Grandma Nora. I froze. Grandma was 87, tucked away in a care home an hour north. Half the family acted like she didn't exist. Hi, Grandma, I said, cautious. You okay? Better than your folks, she said, chuckling. Heard you finally grew a spine. I smiled, despite myself. Something like that. Good, she said. I warned you about your dad back in '09. Leech, that one. Anyway, I've got news. Your granddad left me the cabin in Maine. I'm changing the will. Wait, what? I sat forward, my heart thudding. "You're getting it," she said. "You're the only one who isn't fake. They've been draining me for years. Your gifts paid for this place, you know. They funneled it through me, thinking I wouldn't notice." I couldn't speak. The cabin, pine trees, a lake view, a place I'd loved as a kid. "Grandma, you didn't know," she finished. "That's why it's yours." "They don't deserve you, girl." She hung up before I could argue, leaving me staring at the wall. Maine. A lifeline from the one person they'd forgotten. I leaned back, the chaos of the week fading into something else, something solid. They were scrambling, unraveling, but I wasn't alone. Lucas saw it. Grandma saw it, and for the first time I felt like I was standing on ground they couldn't touch. Chloe's last text came that night. "You think this is over? You've ruined us. Enjoy your lonely life." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The cabin, Lucas's warning, the silence I'd carved out, it was enough. They were sinking. I was rising.